Hey everyone, so basically in this like short screencast what I want to do is I want to talk about one of the blog that I'm posting soon in the Reddit r self-hosted community, and in that blog I'm basically talking about how I use Ansible to set up infrastructure as a code in my home lab. And I just thought like there are some things that I mentioned there which can help, which can get some help like if I have some sort of visual representation of certain things. So yeah, here we are with a short quick like video around that. So one of the things that I mentioned in the blog is around how I use Nginx in my home lab and how I'm leveraging basically Ansible to set it up correctly and automating much of the stuff that I have. So before jumping into like how I'm solving it with Ansible, let's first like quickly go through what exactly my current setup used to look like. So again, with Nginx, like you have the sites available folder where you put like the configuration files. I separate them each out by based on what host they are and what all services are running on them, just for like simplicity purposes. So let's say we look at the one of the servers configuration. So this is one of the servers, Suguru, where I'm hosting like AdGuard. So it is running on SSL as well. So there is a server block for port 80 which does a 3007 redirect to HTTPS, and then there I have a certain SSL block which takes care of like doing the reverse proxy correctly when a request come in with via HTTPS. Now earlier, before Ansible, what I used to do is like, let's say tomorrow I start using another service on this server. What I would do usually is like I'll go into this config, I'll copy this particular config here, I'll go back, I'll paste it out, uh, and then basically swap out the things, right? So for example, this is some service one that is there, and then I'll come here again, it will be service one, I'll change the port and everything. So you get the point, right? I basically would, what I'll do is just copy paste this config, and it works fine, like there is no problem in that. But one of the problem like that is like remembering like what port I'm using everywhere, and there are these configurations are spread across multiple places, right? So one thing that I solve via Ansible in this case is how I generate this particular file. So if we check out like, so this is the infrastructure repository that I have, and if you check out the Nginx config file, so this is the variable where I'm basically keeping track of my config. So this is sort of an array of objects where each object first represents the one particular server, and it has some keys like the domain, the IP. But the good part here, like the best part that I see here, is the records key, where I can basically specify which all services that I want to keep in this particular server. And this has like a very minimal sort of like configuration keys that I want to add, which is like the subdomain where it is going to map, and the port where the upstream service is actually running, and do I want SSL for it or not. That's it, like these are the only required keys that I want. And you'll see that these are also pointing to some other variable, and like we can find them here in this file. This is a variables file for each of the services where I keep track of like what all services are running and what port and everything. And for AdGuard, you'll see the subdomain is added here, the port, and SSL is marked as true. That's why you saw that in the configuration file it had those two separate blocks. But for example, like Prometheus here does not use SSL, Grafana does not use SSL. So for those, if we will check, uh, Prometheus is running on Satoru. So here you will see that this is only just a port 80 block for Prometheus, and there is no SSL like block that is there. And so it will automatically like decide like what exactly I'm doing in the config. It will spit out the correct configuration file. So this is one of the things that I am doing via Ansible, and it is much easier for me to basically manage this entire config. And so these are like the configurations that I added like for Satoru. These are the services that are running and everything. So this is great, this works great. And whenever I, let's say, add a new service, I'll just add this entry here and I'll run this runbook, and then voila, I have that service mapping already created. uh, this works great. Now the second thing that this is not the only thing that it does. Like one of the other things that this role performs is generating the self-sign certificates. So I mentioned it into another blog, like how I generate self-sign certificates. So you will see that there are like couple of steps that you have to do. So how it works, like for example, if I do a curl command on here, you will see that the first thing is like it will go to HTTP. So Nginx is going to do a 307 redirect, but once we start uh, going to the traffic to the HTTPS one, you'll see there are like a lot of SSL handshake that happen. And one of the things that you notice here is the subject alt name. This is the host, and you'll see it matches the search wildcard certificate, which is the star for sotoru.lan. Again, these are for all the servers that are there in my Homelab. So let's say tomorrow I add a new server into the system. I don't have to like sort of go and generate new certificates and all those things. What One of the things that I've added into the role is basically detecting if something has changed in my server's configuration. It is going to generate the new self-sound certificate. It will add those, like that main domain, add all the wildcard domains for that domain that I want to add. And again, these are generated myself, so you will see the issuer is basically me only. And that way, like this whole process is also automated. I don't have to do this manually, and that's also a great thing that sort of I added into this role. uh, so yeah, I think this has made my life a bit easy, I would say. Definitely I don't have to remember the commands and everything around that. Everything is in the code. I can just rerun it, and again, it's an add-on put in operation, so if nothing has changed, it will not generate a new certificates, because that does not make sense. So yeah, I think that is for the Nginx part that I talked about in the blog. There is one more thing, like there are couple of things that I you know do via Ansible. Let's see. So yeah, these are the roles that I have, like few of the roles that I have, like for example, Cloudflare. I have a role to set up Cloudflare, and Cloudflare tunnels, basically to expose my services outside. There are rules for things like a system is another one of the role that I really enjoyed working on. Is what it does is basically the basics things like updating packages, upgrading all the packages and everything. But it also sets up the user. It installs the shell and sets up as a default shell for that particular user. uh, I also use GPG heavily in my workflow. So one of the things that it also do is like setting up GPG correctly on my system, and like importing my private key and basically marking it as trusted. That was again a very tricky thing to do via Ansible, but I stumbled across lots of issues, but I was able to navigate through it, and I have a working solution now. And apart from that, there is also one more thing that it does, which is like setting up SSH. So if SSH keys and everything, so let's say if it's a new server and there are no SSH keys created, it will create a new key. It will add that key to my GitHub account, so that the this server can talk to my GitHub repositories and get pull down private repositories and everything without asking for passwords and those good stuff. And it will also do one more thing, is which is it will take the current key and it will add it to as an authorized key in all my other servers. So this way these servers can also communicate with each other via SSH public key and like authentication. And I think yeah, that's a great addition. Like all these things are done via code, so I don't have to do this sort of manually. And in fact, like I'm going to get a new server soon, so this is one of the things that I definitely want to see it working on a very, like from scratch. I'll run this playbook on the new server and want to see how much it can set it up directly. So I'll do another screencast for that probably soon. uh, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Like I think most of the stuff that I've covered in the blog also explain things around that. So I hope you sort of enjoy it, and yeah, looking forward to maybe screencasting more soon in the future.